16.1 Monopoly and how it arises. In this chapter, we study characteristics of monopoly, single seller, no close substitutes, price maker, blocked entry, non price competition. Secondly, how monopoly arises, no close substitutes, block of entry, natural, legal, and ownership. Third, monopoly price setting strategies, single price or price discrimination. A monopoly is a market in which one firm sells a good or service that has no close substitutes and in which a barrier to entry prevents competition from new firms. Markets for local telephone service, gas, electricity, and water are examples of local monopoly. GlaxoSmithKline has a monopoly on AZT, a drug that is used to treat AIDS. De Beers, a South African firm, controls 80% of the world's production of raw diamonds, close to being a monopoly but not quite one. Characteristics of pure monopoly. Single seller. A pure or absolute monopoly is an industry in which a single firm is the sole producer of a specific good or a sole supplier of the service. The firm and the industry are synonymous. No close substitutes. A pure monopoly's product is unique in that there are no close substitutes. The consumer who chooses not to buy the monopolized product must do without it. Price maker. The pure monopolist controls the total quantity supplied and thus has considerable control over price. It is a price maker, unlike a pure competition which has no such control and therefore is a price taker. The pure monopolist confronts the usual downsloping product demand curve. It can change its product price by changing the quantity of the product it produces. The monopolist will use this power whenever it is advantageous to do so. Blocked entry. A pure monopolist has no immediate competitors because certain barriers keep potential competitors from entering the industry. Those barriers may be economic, technological, legal, or some other type, but entry is totally blocked in pure monopoly. Non-price competition. The product produced by a pure monopolist may be either standardized, as with natural gas and electricity, or differentiated, as with windows or frisbees. Monopolists that have standardized product engage mainly in public relations advertising, whereas those with differentiated products sometimes advertise their products' attributes. Monopoly arises for two main reasons. First one, no close substitutes. If a good has a close substitute, even though only one firm produces it, that firm effectively faces competition from the producers of the substitutes. Water supplied by a local public utility is an example of a good that does not have close substitutes. While it does have close substitutes for drinking bottled spring water, it has no effective substitutes for doing the laundry, taking a shower, or washing a car. The availability of close substitute isn't static. The technological change that can create substitutes and weaken a monopoly. For example, the creation of courier services such as UPS and the development of the fax machine and email provide close substitutes for the mail carrying service provided by the postal service and have weakened its monopoly. Broadband fiber optic phone lines and satellite dishes have weakened the monopoly of cable telephone companies. The arrival of a new product can also create a monopoly. For example, the technologies of the information age have provided opportunities for Google and Microsoft to become near monopolies in their markets. A barrier to entry. Any constraints that protects a firm from the arrival of new competitors or the factors that prohibit firms from entering an industry are called barriers to entry. In pure monopoly, strong barriers to entry effectively block all potential competition. There are three types of barrier to entry: natural, ownership, legal. Economies of scale, natural monopoly or natural barrier to entry. A natural monopoly exists when the technology for producing good or service enables one firm to meet the entire market demand at a lower average total cost than two or more firms could do. Economies of scale will serve as an entry barrier and will protect the monopolist from competition. New firms that try to enter the industry as small scale producers cannot realize the cost economies of the monopolist. They therefore will be undercut and forced out of business by the monopolist, which can sell at a much lower price and still make a profit because of its low per unit cost associated with its economies of scale. A new firm might try to start out big, that is, to enter the industry as a large scale producer so as to achieve the necessary economies of scale. But the massive expense of the plant facilities, along with customer loyalty to the existing product, would make the entry highly risky. Therefore, the new and untried enterprise would find it difficult to secure financing for its venture. This explains why efforts to enter such industries as computer operating software, commercial aircraft, and household laundry equipment are so rare. Natural monopoly indicates economies of scale over a wide range of outputs. A monopoly firm is referred to as a natural monopoly if the market demand curve intersects the long-term ATC curve at any point where average total costs are declining. If total consumer demand is within that output range, then only a single producer can satisfy demand at least cost. In the figure illustrates the natural monopoly in the distribution of electric power. In the figure, the demand curve for electric power is D and the long-run average total cost curve is LRAC. For example, monopolistic can produce 200 units at a per unit cost of $10 and a total cost of $2,000. If the industry has two firms and each produces 100 units, the unit cost is $15 and total cost rises to $3,000. That is 200 units times $15. A still more competitive situation with four firms each producing 50 units would boost unit and total cost to $20 and $4,000 respectively. Conclusion: when long-run ATC is declining, only a single producer, a monopolist, can produce any particular amount of output at minimum total cost, which is illustrated in the figure. If a natural monopoly were to set its price where market demand intersects long-run ATC, its price would be lower than if the industry were more competitive. As with any monopolist, a natural monopolist may instead set its price far above ATC and obtain substantial economic profit. In that event, the lowest unit cost advantage of a natural monopolist would accrue to the monopolist as profit and not as lower prices to consumers. That is why the government regulates some natural monopolies, specifying the price they may charge. Legal barrier to entry. A legal barrier to entry creates a legal monopoly. A legal monopoly is a market in which competition and entry are restricted by the granting of the public franchisee, government license, patent, or copyright. A public franchise is an exclusive right granted to a firm to supply a good or service. An example of which is the US Postal Service's exclusive right to deliver first-class mail. A government license controls entry into particular occupation, professions, and industries. An example is Michael's Texaco in Charleston, Rhode Island, which is the only firm in the area licensed to test for vehicle emissions. At the national level, the Federal Communications Commission licenses only so many radio and television stations in each geographic area. In many large cities, one of a limited number of municipal licenses is required to drive a taxi cab. The consequent restriction of the supply of cabs creates economic profit for cab owners and drivers. New cabs cannot enter the industry to drive down prices and profits. In a few instances, the government might license itself to provide some product and thereby create a public monopoly. For example, in some states, only state-owned retail outlets can sell liquor. Similarly, many states have licensed themselves to run lotteries. A patent is an exclusive right granted to the inventor of a product or service or to allow another to use her or his invention. Patents and patent laws aim to protect the inventor from rivals who would use the invention without having shared in the effort and expense of developing it. At the same time, patents provide the inventor with a monopoly position for the life of the patent. The world's nations have agreed on a uniform patent length of 20 years from the time of application. Patents have figured prominently in the growth of modern day giants such as IBM, Pfizer, Intel, Xerox, General Electric, and DuPont. A copyright is an exclusive right granted to the author or composer of a literary, musical, dramatic, or artistic work. Research and development is what leads to most patentable inventions and products. Firms that gain monopoly power through their own research or by purchasing the patents of others can use patents to strengthen their market position. The profit from one patent can finance the research required to develop new patentable products. In a pharmaceutical industry, patents on prescription drugs have produced large monopoly profits that have helped finance the discovery of new patentable medicines. So, monopoly power achieved through patents may well be self-sustaining, even though patents eventually expand, generic drugs can compete with the original brand. Patents have also stimulated innovations in areas as diverse as soybean seeds, memory chips, and video games. Ownership barrier to entry. A monopoly can arise in a market in which competition and entry are restricted by the concentration of ownership of a natural resource. For example, a firm that owns or controls a resource essential to the production process can prohibit the entry of rival firms. At one time, the International Nickel Company of Canada, now called Vale Canada Limited, controlled 90% of the world's known nickel reserves. A local firm may own all the nearby deposits of sand and gravel. As it is very difficult for new sport leagues to be created because existing professional sports leagues have contracts the best players and have long-term leases on the major stadiums and arenas. Monopoly price setting strategies. A monopoly faces a trade-off between price and the quantity sold. To sell a large quantity, the monopoly must set a lower price. But there are two price setting possibilities that create different trade-offs. Single price discrimination. A single price monopoly is a firm that must sell each unit of its output for the same price to all its customers. De Beers sells diamonds of a given size and quantity for the same price to all its customers. De Beers is a single price monopoly. A price discriminating monopoly is a firm that sells different units for different prices not related to cost differences. Many firms price discriminate. Airlines offer a dizzying array of different prices for the same trip. Pizza producers charge one price for a single pizza and almost give away a second one. Different customers might pay different prices, like airfares, or one customer might pay different prices for different quantities bought, like the bargain price for a second pizza. When a firm price discriminates, it appears to be doing its customers a favor. In fact, it is charging each group of customers the highest price it can get them to pay and is increasing its profit. Not all monopolies can price discriminate. The main obstacle to the practice of price discrimination is resale by the customers who buy for a low price. Because of resale possibilities, price discrimination is limited to monopolies that sell goods and services that cannot be resold.